we are going to graph this piecewise defined function and make sure you take a moment and separate it into its pieces. So study this and then notice how I've separated it into its two pieces. Now, it doesn't matter where you begin. I can begin with this piece. I use this rule if x is greater than 0. Now, I'm going to go ahead and let x be 0 so I'll know where this piece exactly begins, but notice that I'm going to put an open circle about this ordered pair because I can't really let x be 0 and use this rule. Let's think of numbers bigger than 0. What about 0 for my open circle? I know it's not greater than 0. And then 1 and 2. So if x is 0, I have -3. I'm using this rule. If x is 1, 2 times 1 is 2. 2 minus 3 is -1. And if x is 2, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 minus 3 is 1. And let's just graph this piece. 0, -3, and that is an open circle only. That's reminding me of an open circle only. 1, -1, and 2, 1. Just to show you this one piece only, there is one piece of my piecewise defined function. Now let's work on the other piece. I use this piece if x is less than or equal to 0. Here I'm allowed to use 0, so I'm going to place a solid circle around that, reminding me that the point gets a solid point. What are numbers less than or equal to 0? I'm going to use -2 and -4 just to stay away from fractions, but you can certainly use -1, -3 if you want. If x is 0, then y or f of x is 0. If x is -2, what's -1/2 times -2? That's a +1. And if x is -4, a negative times a negative is a positive, and 1/2 of 4 is 2. All right, I have 0, 0, and that is a solid point. -2, 1. And -4, 2. And that's the other piece of this piecewise defined function. Now notice, this does pass the vertical line test. This is a function. And I'm going to erase these pieces so you can see it a little bit better. Let's now look at the graph and write down the domain and range of this function. Let's write down domain and range. Remember, domain has to do with x, so how far left and how far right. Well, every single x value has been graphed, so for domain, it's -infinity to infinity. What about range? That's y values, so how far down and how far up? Well, how far up, because of these arrows, it's going up to +infinity. How far down? The lowest point, and I don't have a bracket around it, I have a parenthesis around it, that's -3 with a parenthesis to infinity. There is the range of the function.